Hi, I'm Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that focuses on musicians, authors, and interesting people. We like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. So sit back, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. My guest this time is actually someone who went to the same high school that I went to. He's a musician who's been around for quite a while and some interesting tales to tell us. His name is Geoff Eustice. Geoff, welcome aboard, buddy. So glad to have you on the show.
Thanks, Rick. Pleasure to be here.
Geoff, I was reading in your bio that you started in music in 1973, graduated in 1981. So obviously you were playing in high school. How did you get started? Let's talk about those early years of you playing and then where you played at, okay?
Okay. Well, I started basically when I got a cheap guitar at a garage sale. And I went ahead and my brother had a collection of hard rock albums, anywhere from like Cream and the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and Mountain and Jimi Hendrix and, et cetera. And I started trying to learn the riffs, and he was playing in a band. Mm-hmm. His name was Randy. He was playing in a band called Tumbleweed. And they were down in the basement jamming, so I was like, wow, this is what I want to do. So I went ahead and got into a guitar class in 8th grade. I was living in Miller at the time, and I went ahead and took a guitar class. A teacher there named Bruce Evans, who's a pretty prolific bass player around the area, but he was a teacher at King at the time. Went ahead and learned some songs from him. Had some neighbor move across the street where I ended up playing in a band with him. We did local shows. I can't even remember some of the bars that we played at, but I had to wait outside until they said it was okay for me to come in. I played, and then I had to go leave. They're probably closed down by now. It's probably like 1976 when I was about 13. And around that time, my mom decided to move us to Hobart. So I moved to Hobart, went ahead and was still playing, and they had a talent show, 9th grade talent show in the middle school, which is now the police department in Hobart. But at the time, it was the middle school, right. And I ended up playing an original song I wrote called "Someone Else," and I got done playing. It was like I was the freaking Beatles or something. I mean, it was just crazy. And then I ended up there, like, wanting me to do an encore, which I wasn't ready for, but I got up, got up and played a song. And, it was just pretty much after that was like, wow, that was a really good show. And just doing something by myself, so. So the bug definitely bit you, huh, Geoff? Yeah, big time, Rick. I was, I had, I had to keep playing because it was just, it became like my identity in a lot of ways, so, I played awesome. Guitar.
That's awesome, yeah. And guitars get chicks, right?
Yeah, at the time, especially, Too bad I was kind of shy at the time,
Okay, very good.
It took me, well, I started playing in a band called Triad with my good buddy Marty Paul and Mel Chaney, rest in peace. He passed away a couple of years ago. And ended up where, high school we were doing a lot of shows.
Wow,
that's
amazing.
We were doing a lot of parties, and it was fun. We had a blast. But, I just, at the time, the economic situation around here was horrible.
Yeah, it was. It graduated in 81, right about the time where the steel mills were really and truly laying off everybody and they're closing down and such. So you joined the Marine Corps, right out of high school?
Yeah. It was just like I had to do something. So, it was like I felt like a calling towards California for some reason. That was my main thing, So I went to boot camp at Camp Pendleton.
Oh, you did? So you went to Pendleton. You didn't go to MCRD. Yes. Okay, you went to Pendleton. Okay.
Right, Camp Pendleton. And ended up where, my MLS was, I was a helicopter mechanic.
Okay.
I worked on CH-46C nights, they were called in Marine Corps.
The big ones, yeah.
Yeah, they were like cargo helicopters. And ended up doing that and went to Japan, and then went to mainland Japan and ended up playing. One time they had a picnic, and they had a Filipino band up there playing. And I was like, I told the manager, I go, I'll give you $50. You let me up there and play a song, So I got up there and played with them. He let me. I didn't have to pay nothing, thank God. And got up there and played "Roll Over Beethoven."
Oh, there you go.
So, it was like had some fun.
Chuck Berry there. All right, wonderful.
Yeah, well, it wasn't like when I got up there they would play any Judas Priest or anything. I don't think they knew that. So, so I thought, well, I just play, and do the Beatles version, So
okay, very good, awesome.
Yeah, I had fun.
I love it. I was going to say you had to bring your guitar along with you, I'd hope, right?
Actually, they loaned me theirs, so that was a cool show. So then when I got back from Japan, I was stationed in Tustin, California.
Mm-hmm.
There was a helicopter base there. They have hangars out there. They used to use for the blimps, and that's where they put the helicopters, And ended up, I got with some civilians in a band called Torn Circus. We were doing like The Who, The Doors, and original music.
Awesome.
And we played at a place called the Rat Trap, who had Jimi Hendrix played there, The Doors, The Animals. Really nice, huge place. It was really nice.
Awesome.
And,
very good. I really love stories like that. And once again, from this veteran to you, the veteran, thank you for serving.
You too, sir. Thank you. I saw some of your flight footage on YouTube. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I love. I fly the sim now. It cost me a couple, maybe about $10,000 or so to get back where I needed to get back to get my license again. But I absolutely love simming.
Well, my dad was a pilot in World War II.
Oh, really? What did he fly?
Yeah. It's C-130 or aircraft equivalent to C-130.
Okay.
Which are like cargo aircrafts.
Awesome.
Very good. He was in D-Day and stuff. So
that's amazing, and thank him for serving also. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
All right, let's get down to playing some music right now. First song we're going to feature is a live cut, "Live Good Like You Should." Can you give us the rundown on where this was recorded at and the backstory on the song there, Geoff?
That was recorded at a buddy's house, Bob Toby, who had a studio in his garage. And the bass player on it is Dave Davies, and the drummer's name was Dean Hamilton, who passed away a couple years ago, also, drummers. We recorded, I think it was probably around 2014, 2015.
Good song. We're going to feature that right now on the Someone You Should Know podcast with today's Someone You Should Know podcast guest, Geoff Eustice. Live good like you should. Great music right there from today's podcast guest, Geoff Eustice. Before we continue, I'd like to say thank you so much for tuning in the Someone You Should Know podcast. We also remind you that we're on the web at SomeoneYouShouldKnowPodcast.com. There you're going to find the recent news, our archive of past episodes, and a whole lot more. Plus, if you're enjoying it, I highly recommend or encourage you to go ahead and leave a review or rate the podcast. It helps us out big time. And we're so blessed to be heard all around the world. Today, we want to salute a couple of listeners listening in Valby, Denmark, and also San Pedro, California. Thanks for listening in. As we get back to our interview with Geoff Eustice. Geoff, in your bio, you said you ran sound for numerous punk bands. You toured and recorded with the drummer from Badfinger, who worked at Apple Records. You got to share these stories with us because these sound really fascinating.
Well, I was when I had gotten out of the Marine Corps, I was playing with numerous bands. I was ended up playing in a band called Among the Living, and I was doing a lot of shows at Club Mesa was the name of the club in Costa Mesa, and they needed a sound guy. So I was like, sure. They had a PA already there. So we ended up, I think the first time I had someone that was of relative fame was a band called the UK Subs. Place was packed. I mean, they wanted to go ahead and mic everything, but I said, man, this is a punk bar, man. They break all the mics,
Yeah.
So I had maybe one or two, and the place was small, but it would constantly get a great crowd, And one of the bands I played with, or not played with, but ran sound for, was the Addicts. You can pull these bands up on YouTube; they have a pretty good following. They'll be playing in Greece or somewhere, but they happened to play there that one night, and they had a really great show also there. And I ended up running sound for a band called the Mentors, and the most famous band I ran sound for there was The Offspring.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they ended up
they've had a couple of hits. Yeah, they had a couple of hits.
Right, yeah. Yeah, they ended up they were a local band from Huntington Beach. So they came in to go ahead and do a show. So they were like one of 5 bands there doing the show, and ended up where I know some guys in suits, which, you usually don't see at this bar, It's kind of a rock and roll bar, but they were sitting there and do a show, and ended up where it turned out they were from Rolling Stone.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, so I'm like 3 months later after the band played and I ran sound for them, I'm looking through the Rolling Stone magazine, I see a picture of the band. I go, I ran sound for those guys. I go, hey, that's a picture of them in the bathroom that I ran sound for them at, because they could just tell by the bathroom, is pretty much I recognized right away where it was. So, and after that, history for those guys with that, so
wonderful. Now, what's the story about the drummer from Badfinger?
Well, like in 1987 or 86, 87, I was back out here, back out in California. I ended up going ahead and answering an ad that the classifieds out there at the time, and it said something about a player from an international band, famous band, is looking for musicians. So I answered it and talked to Steve Crater, was his name, or is his name, and ended up where he's like, yeah, I was played with Badfinger. I just happened to have a cassette of Badfinger in my car at the time.
No matter what, great songs, yeah.
Right, Baby Blue, Come and Get It, Day After Day.
Yep, great band. They were supposed to be the next coming of the Beatles because they were even on Apple Records.
Right, yeah, they were signed to Apple Records. Well, Steve worked for Apple Records.
Yeah.
He met the band when they were touring through. He wasn't an original member.
Oh, okay.
Mike Gibbons was the original drummer.
Okay.
But Steve was like, initially he got hired on to work for Badfinger and Apple Records. But he would fill in because he was is a really great drummer and singer. So he'd fill in a lot of recording sessions going on in Apple Records or at Abbey Road. So he ended up doing that a lot. And then he joined Badfinger after one of the reinterpretations of the band. And so we got together. We did some recordings, and then we got together around 1989 and played up at the City of Industry. And they were wanting to call the band Badfinger, and I said, no, we're not Badfinger. I can't do that. And the manager tells me, well, if you call yourself Badfinger, Slash and Axl will come down and jam with you.
Oh, jeez.
I go, no, I'm not going to do that, man. 'Cause out of reverence, because I love Badfinger and I love two of the guys, unfortunately, committed suicide.
Yeah, that's a shame. Couldn't
And,
handle
they're the
success,
two main guys, so, you got to go ahead and play, go by what your gut feeling is about it. And, I might have been able to jam with Slash and Axl for all that matters, but, that's okay.
Well, that's very good. Very good. Let's play some more music here. This one, we're going to back up to 1994. The band is Stage Fright.
Now, this is Stage Fright. This is the band, but Steve's on drums.
Oh, he's okay. He's okay. This is and the song is Contradiction. Tell me a little bit about what's the song on this one?
Well, the story behind it. When I was out in Pennsylvania in 1994, Steve and I went on tour. We toured down to Florida and Baton Rouge and Alabama and Florida, and hit a bunch of spots. So when we got back, it was like we had some dead time. I said, well, why don't we just record some songs, So Contradiction happened to be one of the originals that Steve liked that I wrote.
Mm-hmm. So it's a good song.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we worked on it. It was it took a couple of weeks to get everything like we wanted. But that's basically it. And Mark Lyons was a bass player in the band. He's also on the track. So
Let's give it a spin. This is from Stage Fright from 1994. We're going to back this one up. 1994 with my guest Geoff Eustice on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
So bad.
Good song right there. The song is Contradiction from today's podcast guest, Geoff Eustice, right here on the Someone You Should Know podcast. Geoff, you have told me about the numerous bands that you've been in, and you have done your share of load-ins and load-outs.
Oh,
This next feature is called Tales from the Road. These are those infamous road stories of when you get to a gig and things don't go as planned. Either something happens on stage, something happens with your accommodations, something that happens backstage, something that happens getting to the gig, coming from a gig. What would you say would be your Tales from the Road?
The one spot I remember where I had a really hard time was, I would say it was about 2014. I was doing the Hobart JC's Fest. We were opening up for Echoes of Pompeii.
Oh, I love Echoes of Pompeii. Pink Floyd, yeah.
So we were opening up, and it was really coming down with bad rain. It was like almost flooding, because it was so bad. And they were doing it over in Hobart. They have a rugby field. Well, Hobart JC's was doing that tent. It was like a tent thing, So we get up to play, and everything's going smooth, but my amp gives out on me.
All right.
So I'm like, what am I going to do? We got about 20 more minutes,
Mm-hmm.
Well, luckily, I had brought this foot pedal stand. It's for my devices, right? But it's got a built-in amplifier with a speaker on it. So I ended up having to use that to go ahead and finish the show, and the sound guy or one of his buddies that helping him or whatnot was holding the mic the whole time on the speaker. So yeah, we made it through the show, perseverance and adapt and overcome.
Oh yeah, the show must go on, right? Absolutely,
right, exactly.
I love stories of perseverance. There, that's a good one. Thanks so much. And raining in Hobart? Are you kidding? Does that ever happen?
Oh, jeez.
It's like the Midwest version of Seattle here, folks. Yeah,
totally agree.
What's on the horizon for you for the rest of 2023? I know you and the Roadhouse Gypsies are playing out. What's on the agenda?
Well, right now we just bringing in a new drummer. Unfortunately, we're like Spinal Tap with drummers. They either implode or explode. Our first one that we had was my old drummer from Residence 18, Dean Hamilton, and a couple of years ago we just got done doing a rehearsal, and then 2 days later he has a stroke and he passes.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, it was horrible. He had some health issues, but what do you do? So ever since then we've been going through because he was the guy who was going to probably stick real well with the band because he loved the music we were doing and everything. But so it ended up we had different carousel of different drummers coming in and out. And so now we have a new drummer, Brian Mostello, who's was a singer in a band. He played in a band called Clutch Cargo around the area.
Oh, I know the name. Yes.
Popular band. Mm-hmm. And so he's fitting in real well. So we haven't really gone out and got any gigs yet because of the fact that our status with our players has been kind of in question. The bass player is Ben Cutler and myself so far. And we're also probably looking for another guitarist, but that'll be down the road once we get everything melded. So we got a page that we have all music on, and all the music that you're hearing tonight, you can also download from my Reverb Nation account. So
I'll include that in the show notes. So if anyone's in their car right now, that will be included in the show notes so you can reach out. Another good social media page would be where, Geoff? What would be a good place? I know you're on Facebook.
Right, Facebook. I'm also on Twitter. I'm also on YouTube. I'm also on SoundCloud. I have some music there that I don't have on my Reverb Nation accounts. I also have I have 3 pages on Reverb Nation.
Okay, good.
So yeah. One of my pages is Stuart Robinson, which is music that I did with other artists that are either singing or they wrote the music, or I do instrumentals. on it.
Okay, very
That's
good.
basically my middle name with my mom's maiden name.
Awesome. I like
So,
it.
yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll include those in the show notes, so folks, you can go ahead and do that. And maybe you might want to go ahead and book his band for an upcoming date later in 2023. What do you say, Geoff?
Hey, I'm all for that.
10% to the house, okay, bud?
Yeah. No problem.
Final song we're going to feature is Like It or Leave It. What's the backstory?
This I did with my bass player that I played with Little Lover, the AC/DC tribute band.
I know that band very, very well.
Right. Well, I was the first guitarist in that band.
Oh, seriously?
Yes.
So Marco Villarreal came in after?
No, it was Stephen V and myself that were the first guitarists.
Okay, and then Marco came in later.
He came in after I left.
Yeah, that's well, the band, yeah, of course, and wonderful,
Right.
Wonderful.
Right.
So tell me a little bit more about this song.
So George, the bass player, had a studio, and we ended up. I went down there with a buddy of his, a multi-instrumentalist, Ken Bernowski, played drums on this track, and George produced it, and I did all the instrument overdubs. I played the bass and all the guitars and did all the vocals on this one.
All right, very good.
So,
we're going to wrap up the show with that, and I thank you so much, Geoff, for taking time out this evening to be on the podcast show. Anything else that people should know about you that we haven't touched already?
I played for the Hobart Brickies 1981 state championship runner-up team.
Oh, wonderful. And I'll tell you one thing, folks. If for those of you who are outside the area don't know, the Hobart Brickies are our football team or our sports teams and such. And the football team has gone down to state numerous times and won the state championship several times also. And and when fall hits the local area, it's local football. I'm sure it is in your area too. But Hobart Bricky football is an institution, especially Coach Don Howell. If you've ever been a part of that whole Bricky football organization, it is a rite of passage, and it's part of it. It's like once a Bricky, always a Bricky, right, Geoff?
Right. Well, I got that. Once a Marine, always a Marine, and once a Bricky, always a Bricky.
Awesome. Very good. All right. Well, thanks for being on the podcast tonight, Geoff. We appreciate that.
Well, thanks for having me, and rock and roll, everyone.
World is in a mess, ain't no place to be. Time is running short, nothing here affects me. If I were a slave, master or brother, would you ever be happy? I said like it or leave it. That's what I said like it or leave it. That's all I gotta say. I said like it or leave it. That's what I said like it or leave it. That's all I gotta say. Red street of color, all nationality, pieces of solution, and the possibility. I said like it or leave it. That's what I said
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.